welcome back to the Kristin Omdahl Show. It is also Tuesday, so this is our Shawls for Sharing Make-Along Day. Also, regular Tuesday, so happy Tuesday, everybody. Hopefully you're having a great day so far. If you are joining me live, please say hello. Let me know if you are crafting so far this morning. Let me know if you have questions for me. Let's just chat. Sometimes the conversation goes in different directions. Sometimes it stays on topic, but let's see where the day takes us. Thank you for your patience. I know I'm a little late this morning. I had an appointment that I couldn't avoid, but I am here now and I have stuff to show you today. Ooh, big shocker. Hi, Joe and Edna, Judy, Linda, Sharon. If you are joining me live, please say hello. If you have questions, let me know. And baby Bjorn is here. Oh, I see a tail. He's been trying to find his way. He wants to sit all over the table, but we've managed to get him onto his pink binky. So I have room to do a tutorial for you today. So, you know, we've been talking about the Alicia knit shawl pattern this quarter. This is the pattern that is dedicated to 100% proceeds being donated to charity. It is our featured knit pattern for the fourth quarter for Shawls for Sharing. And we have lovely sponsors this quarter. We have the yarn company who donated the yarn. It is Ancient Art Fibers, and if you would like to order the yarn, the Lascaux DK kit to make this, they are offering a coupon code where you can get 15% off, which is absolutely fabulous. We also have a second sponsor this quarter, and that's I Like Knitting Magazine, and they're offering a really great promotion too. You can subscribe to their magazine for only $5 and get all of the issues. It's really an incredible deal as well. So both of those things are very generous that our sponsors are donating, and thank you to both of them for being on board and promoting this really special charity that means so much to me. Project Kristin Cares and the Shawls for Sharing initiative supports survivors of domestic violence. So all of the proceeds of this pattern this quarter, and whatever pattern is featured in whatever quarter we're doing this, 100% of the proceeds are donated to survivors of domestic violence. So really a great way to give back. And then every Tuesday we do a make along where you can make the same shawl with me. You can learn the different variations that I teach throughout the quarter, or you can make anything you want for charity, or we also talk about the different ways that we give back to our communities. There is no downside to talking about giving back. We inspire each other with each other's ideas. We inspire each other in so many different ways, and I just think this is a wonderful way to raise the momentum about just being kinder to ourselves, kinder to each other, and kinder to our communities. I don't know, it makes me feel really good. I hope it makes all of you feel good too. We do have such an amazing community here. I do this show live so that we have the community joining us. I have how many, I think we have 4 moderators, something like that. I could be wrong, but we try to keep it as clean as possible, as safe as possible. The world is a scary place, and we can't always control what kind of behavior other people's are going to have, but we do have a really incredible community here. And so if you're new to my channel, I highly recommend you subscribe if you like what we're doing here. Knitting and crochet tutorials, charity, make along, being creative, being kind to each other, all good stuff. And if you're enjoying the conversation with everybody in the live chat, it's pre-chat for 30 minutes prior to me going live, and then it is live the whole time where we're chatting together here during the show. But if that's not enough and you want to take the party further throughout the day, I do have forums on my website, and the forums are 100% private, which is really unique because nobody can see it unless they have an account and are logged in. And obviously I do all sorts of things to keep that very safe and private, that very safe as well. But you have 100% privacy when you share there. You can private message each other on there, and honestly, I don't even have access to your private messages there. So that's totally private, even from me. Hello, Gurjeet. Hello, Angela. Hello, Craze Vintage Model. Lori, Marcia. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Hi, Karen. I have a special treat for you today. So you know how we've been talking about the different ways you can take a pattern and use it for something else? Well, I have a treat for you today, and I'm going to have to show you on my computer because I didn't get a chance to print it out before going live this morning. This is the chart. Hopefully you can see this. This is the chart for the Alicia knit shawl pattern, and you have access to this. There's a free pattern page. There's the paid PDF download where you're promoting the charity, 100% of the proceeds. It's only $3.99. Anyway, no matter what, you have access to this chart, okay? So whether I show it on camera or not today, that's really not the issue. And it is a combination of squares, and all knitting charts are formatted as squares, square blocks like this. But in this one, we alternate clear blocks with a dot in them, okay? And so for this particular pattern, those dots and clear squares represent purl stitches and knit stitches, and depending on whether you're on a right side row or wrong side row, it symbolizes either. Okay, so the clear blocks are knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side, and the dotted blocks are purl on the right side, knit on the wrong side, okay? So within this shawl pattern, you're using that chart for the center gusset to make this very subtle yet very meaningful X's and O's design in between the two garter stitch triangles. Now, for anybody that this is too complicated for, it's patterning on every row, not every other row. It's just knit and purls. So I don't want you to be intimidated by it. There is a tutorial video where you can follow along on all 16 rows of the pattern repeat with me. It is not difficult to do. It does require some concentration though. And not only can you use this type of stitch pattern for doing that type of design, combining knit and purls to create that sort of a raised texture in a fabric, but you can also use it for beading. And instead of those dots representing a knit or purl stitch, and instead of those clear squares representing a knit or purl stitch, they can all represent, the clear dots can represent a plain stitch in the stitch pattern of your choice, and the dotted squares can represent a bead stitch. So whether you want to do this in stockinette base, which is knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side, or you want to do it in garter stitch base, which would be knit on the right side and the right side rows, you can represent those dots with beads instead. Before I show it to you, I do want to suggest, because this is a stitch pattern that's patterning on both the right and wrong side, I thought that it would be a disservice to string the beads on first and then bead while I was knitting. Because what happens when you string beads on first is they either present on the right or wrong side of the fabric based on how you hold the yarn when you're slipping the bead onto the stitch. And if you're doing it on right and wrong side rows, then your beads are going to show up alternately on the right and wrong side rows, which isn't going to allow you to see the visual of the design. We're looking for the X's and O's. The beads are added on every row. So the best way to show a bead on both the right and wrong side of the fabric is to do the technique where we take a crochet hook, and as we approach the stitch, we slip the bead onto the stitch, put the bead back on the needle, and then knit it. Before I go any further, I want to make sure that makes sense. I will be changing the camera to my overhead shot tripod and showing you what I'm doing, and here's what I've done so far. Isn't that great? I'm seeing X's and O's. So I'm using another yarn by Ancient Art Fibers this morning. This is their Revival Worsted, which is a really beautiful worsted weight yarn, and I wanted to show you not only the DK weight Last Cow DK yarn that they have, but I thought it'd be fun to feature more than one of their yarns anyway, because everybody likes different stuff and it's nice to see variety. But I also thought, in order to do the beading with beads that require a crochet hook for threading them on, there's a couple of components at play here, right? We need a bead that has a hole large enough that we can slip a crochet hook into, and we need that larger size bead to not overwhelm the yarn. So the minimum weight I would do, I'm using pony beads because this is what I have. There are certainly fancier beads out there for doing large hole beads, but I'm using these, which you can find in my Amazon shop, and I simply picked a bead that was high contrast for teaching you. Granted, if you want to use a gemstone bead or glass beads or pearl beads, that would be more elevated and more elegant, but in order to show you what I'm doing, I didn't think it would hurt to do it this way. Oh, no, we don't scratch the furniture. We sit on bankies. There you go. You go sit over there. You can go sit over there. You want to say hi to everybody? Thanks, Lori. Hello, Angela from Germany. Hi, Chris and Tammy, Carrie. And hello to anybody that I may have missed. Oh, we've got a helper now. So anyway, so in order to show the beads on both the right side and wrong side, since we're adding beads on both the right and wrong side, the only way to get the fabric reversible is to add the beads as we go with a crochet hook rather than stringing them on before starting to knit. And look at that, identical on both sides. Wouldn't that make an amazing scarf, an amazing wrap? You could do something that requires being reversible, right? Something that's a flat fabric would be stunning like this. Even the shawl, you could do the actual shawl this way too. And I'm going to show you how to do this on a stockinette or on a garter stitch base. Can you see that that's garter stitch? And so this is taking a chart that wasn't even intended for beads and applying it to beads. So let me show you that chart again now that hopefully you understand what I did. So see this? This chart is intended as a chart for knitting and purling so that you have that embossed texture of knit and purl stitches to create the X's and O's, which is very subtle, right? And I thought that it was a very subtle message in a charity shawl, because whether or not someone wants to see the design, it's the intention that we put into it. And when we're doing things for charity, our intention is priceless, right? Yeah, you can see the garter stitch in here. Now, if you wanted to, you could do this on a stockinette base or a reverse stockinette base as well. So let me remind you what that is. Stockinette base is when you do knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side, and reverse stockinette would be purl on the right side, knit on the wrong side. If you're going to do either one of those, always keep in mind that that is a curling stitch pattern versus garter stitch, which is a non-curling stitch pattern. So your fabric might curl if you don't add a selvage edge. You might want to do an extra knit 2 on each side and make sure that they're both done in garter stitch, which is knit every row. Hi Irma, good morning. That's a lot of information. If that's too much, I will pause for a minute and make sure everybody understands that. All of these are options, right? And again, we have so many options and we're creative to begin with. Isn't that wonderful? It's so exciting that we have so many options when it comes to yarn, knitting, crochet. In the coming weeks, I'm also going to be showing you how to convert this chart to a crochet chart too. Isn't that going to be exciting? And I do believe, let me look at that chart one more time. I do believe we can convert it into lace as well. Oh, we can convert it into lace as well. I'm going to convert it into knit lace as well. Maybe we'll do that next week, and then in the following weeks I'll show you how to convert those into bobble stitches for crochet and maybe even filet crochet. Once you have a chart like this, sky's the limit. It really is. Angela has been the proud owner of one of my books since 2015, The Finer Edge. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, guess what I found this morning? Walmart carries my books. I had no idea, and including some of my newer books. Let me think, what were the 2 books that I saw in there this morning? 3. Walmart, probably not in the store. You probably have to order online, but they carry 88 Crochet Stitch Dictionary, Crochet So Lovely, Crochet So Fine, 24 crochet hats, The Finer Edge, Seamless Crochet, and 52 crochet gifts. I had no idea Walmart carried my books. I think that's awesome. Oh, by the way, if you know any yarn shops that you would like to see carry my books, I do offer distribution of the books that I publish myself, and you can ask your local yarn shops or any shop that is interested, and I am more than happy to sell wholesale to them because I can distribute the books myself directly. Let's go back to here. Okay, so let's see, are there any more questions about what I've mentioned so far? Because if not, I'm going to switch the camera to the overhead shot so I can show you how to knit these really gorgeous beads. All right, let's see. I'm going to get I want to make sure I keep the chat open here because I won't be able to see it up there. Get my chart set up over here. All right, baby Bjorn, we're just about ready. And he wants to be front and center today. So he's going to be probably in the shot. Let's see if he knits with us too. I don't know about you guys, but it just melts my heart when he puts his paw on the yarn and helps me to, you know, tension. He's my yarn tensioner. Hi, E. Okay, so I'm gonna take the camera out of this tripod. Bear with me a second. We'll flip the camera over and you can see, uh-oh, we've got a helper. All right, let's get this situated. All right. All right, so I'm going to open my bead box. Hopefully you can see that. And the key to doing this, obviously, is finding a bead with a large enough hole to fit a crochet hook. Now, it doesn't have to be this large. I'm doing this with a 2.75 millimeter crochet hook or a C2. If you have much smaller crochet hooks, like those steel crochet hooks, and you want to use a slightly smaller bead, that's fine too. You just have to make sure that it can fit through. That's it. That's the only requirement. So in order to use what I have on hand, which are these really large pony beads, I had to find a crochet hook that would fit there. Okay? All right, we are up to row 9 in the chart, so I did one full repeat of the X and O. Excuse me, baby Bjorn, so sorry to be in your way. You know, it's not like I'm doing anything important over here. He doesn't care. Okay, so I did one whole repeat of the pattern, which is the first 8 rows. So what happens is, for this particular design, I alternate the X's and O's. So where it's an X here and an O here, in the next repeat it'll be an O here and an X here. Does that make sense? It'll go XO, XO, like that. Make sure that makes sense. And I really wanted to have one repeat done so that you could see a visual before we started knitting, because once I start knitting, you know, it stops being obvious what's going on. Yes, he has little socks. Yes, he does. Okay, is everybody ready to get started then? I'd just like to make sure there aren't any more important questions that I might have missed. And also, I did say that this is an 18 stitch and 16 row repeat. However, I did add one extra stitch on either side here because I thought I was considering possibly doing it on a stockinette base, and I ended up doing it on garter stitch. I didn't have a problem with it, and I thought it was just that much easier to show you this morning. However, you can do this on any base you want. Stockinette, reverse stockinette, garter stitch. You could even do it in the knit and purl pattern, but I don't see the point of giving yourself that much extra work because I don't think it's going to be noticeable. So keep it simple, right? I love that expression, KISS, keep it simple, STUPID, but I don't like to say the fourth word. So I just like to say keep it simple silly, or keep it simple sweetheart. Let's do that. Let's make KISS, keep it simple sweetheart. That's much better than stupid. I love the expression and it means so much to me, but I hate saying it. Yeah, the beads are really a deal, Tammy. I have used these for many projects already and I still have a ton of beads left. I will definitely be buying them again. Okay, so I'm up to row 9 and I'm going to start with my selvage stitch first. Then it says to do knit 3 first. And then the next 2 stitches have the dot, so these would be purl if I was doing the actual stitch pattern. But because I'm doing the beading instead, those dotted stitches are representing bead stitches for me. And it says to do 2. I feel comfortable holding 2 beads on my crochet hook at a time for efficiency, but if this isn't comfortable for you, don't do it. Now, if you didn't have a sweet kitty sitting in your way, you could put your work all the way down on the table, especially on the first few rows and in the beginning of the row. It's really easy to drop your stitches by mistake. I know, it's all about you, sweetheart. So what you would want to do is slip that stitch off your left hand needle, slide it through the bead, place it back on your left hand needle to then knit it. And this is the technique that then allows that bead to be prominent on both the right and wrong side of the fabric. And don't let these colors not entice you, the opposite of it, not entice. I'm doing high contrast so that you can see what I'm doing really well. Okay? Oh, Saint is good too, Chris. But I like the idea of changing it. I might even make a t-shirt out of that. So then the next one is also a bead stitch. So we're going to slip the stitch onto the crochet hook, slide that stitch through the bead, then place it back on the left hand needle, and then knit it. So that's a beaded knit stitch. Okay? So it was 2 bead stitches, then what's next? And it's 5 regular knit stitches. Can you see this okay? Can everybody see the tutorial okay? It's a really bad angle for me to see what I'm doing. Read the chart, watch my stitches, and look at the camera. So I'll just wait and see if it's okay before I move on. I'd rather make it very... Can you see okay though? Okay, good, you can see. Okay, so it was knit 5, row 9, then it's 2 bead stitches. And again, you can do 1 at a time. I like carrying 2 just for the efficiency. I didn't feel comfortable carrying 4, by the way. I only felt comfortable carrying 2, but that's okay too. And again, if you only want to do 1 at a time, that's fine. We'll slide it back to the left-hand needle and then knit it. And we can talk more in future podcast episodes about different ways to find the right kind of beads, different keywords to look for, because finding large hole beads and finding the right quality of beads that you're looking for can be a challenge sometimes, and I'm more than happy to help you with that. So it was 2 bead stitches. I know, baby Bjorn, I'm in your way. He is trying to get further in the way. I love him so much. Gosh darn, he's so funny. Then it's 4 knit stitches. I know, but yet his blanket is over there and he's chosen to get off his blanket and get in the way. I hope that's entertaining. Is it a bothering anybody? Do you want me to move him, or is it funny watching him react? Like, it's up to you. Okay, and then we've got 2 bead stitches. So I'll grab 2 more beads. Thanks, Joanne. I appreciate it. I thought he'd be funny to watch. You know, it's kind of like watching America's Funniest Home Videos, too. Sometimes not knowing how pets and kids are going to react is the funniest thing of all, right? I know. I prefer to not move him. I just didn't want to offend anybody, that's all. Or distract from our tutorial. Okay, so that was row 9. The other thing that you might want to consider, and I had thought about doing it even though I didn't here, even though the X's and O's, the beads will be distinctly separate from the X to the O, it might not have hurt to put 2 rows of plain knitting between rows 8 and 9 on the chart and turn this into an 18 or a 20 round repeat instead of 16. It might have been nice to put some space between them from top to bottom, since I do have space between them here, but you know, it's not that big a deal. Okay, so now we'll go on to row 10, and when you're back on your chart, remember the rows are where the where the number of the row is, that's the side you start on. So row 9, the number was on the right hand, so we worked right to left. Row 10, the row number is on the left hand of the chart, which means we are going to read left to right now. Hopefully I said that right. So we'll start with our selvage stitch. Then the first stitch is a regular knit stitch. The next 2 stitches are dot stitches, which how we're reading it today, we're going to call those bead stitches. No one puts baby Bjorn in the corner. I say that all the time, Lori. I love it. Love it, love it. Okay, so this is where I noticed when I'm starting a row, if I'm not setting my work down on the table, and you know how I always say that it's really helpful when you're knitting sometimes to use the table, not only knitting, broomstick lace, hairpin lace in crochet as well. Anytime you're doing one of the more cumbersome techniques, like double pointed needles, another example when you're knitting, use the table as your third hand. Oh, also when you're joining motifs in crochet, anytime you're doing something that requires a lot of extra movement, using the table as your third hand is extremely helpful. So I'm going to do that here. I found when I was doing it, holding it up like this and trying to move everything, I ended up dropping these 2 stitches. So once I put my needles on the table, this needle isn't going anywhere now. So now I'll be able to slip that stitch off. And this was more of an issue when on my first few rows down here, so just keep that in mind. If you feel like your stitches are falling off, use the table. The table is it can be a great tool. Okay, so it was 2 bead stitches for the beginning of row 10. It was knit 1, then 2 bead stitches. Okay, then next on 10 is 2 plain stitches, then 2 more bead stitches. Then after this row, how about I show you how to fix a mistake? How's that sound? Because I don't know about you, but I don't care what you're doing, there is always going to be the human component of making mistakes. It does not make you a bad crafter. It makes you human. My goodness, on any given day, we have only so much stress, only so much distractions, only so much everything going on in our lives. Please do not ever take it as a reflection of you personally when you make mistakes. And honestly, anytime you make mistakes and can learn from them, you actually know more and are doing better than if you never made the mistakes in the first place. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, 5 plain knit stitches. If you're following along, this is row 10 in the chart of the Alicia knit shawl pattern, converting the chart to a beading chart. Then 2 bead stitches, okay, 2 bead stitches, and then, or no, it was 4 bead stitches for row 10. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, and then the pattern says knit 3, and then I added a selvage edge. Oh, well, this is perfect then. This means that I did make a mistake. So let's put our work down now and see where I made the mistake. So row 10 was supposed to start with, we had our selvage stitch, then it was knit 1, 2 bead stitches, 4 knit stitches, and then 2 bead stitches. So that's where I made the mistake. So now I have to unravel back to here because it was supposed to be, what was it supposed to be? Where am I? Hold on, I'm on row 10. So it was supposed to be knit 1, purl, oh no, it was 2 beads, 2 plain, 2 beads, 5 knit, 4, 5, 4 beads. Oh, I did it right after all. 2 knit stitches and my selvages. Okay, never mind, just kidding. I did do it right. But let's unravel it anyway. Let's say we made a mistake here in the middle of these 5 stitches. Let's say that we didn't do those correctly. Let's say we did 6, 4, we've skipped it all together, whatever. So let me show you how we unravel these stitches back. So unraveling in garter stitch is usually pretty easy. I like to work it on the back side of the stitches, because if you go to the back side of your work, those knit stitches created garter bumps here. So I'm going to pick up that garter bump and drop, let's see, get my yarn to the front. I'm going to pick up that garter bump below the live stitch, and when I move it to the right hand needle, I can pull the live stitch off. So I'm going to go back to the garter bump, pull the live stitch off, and then we're unraveling back to the previous row. Now, if your beads were off by some amount, notice the beads still on there. I'm going to leave some of them on there because I don't actually have a mistake, but I'm going to take some off as well so that you can see what you would do as well. So if you had to go back and fix mistakes that were unrelated to where the beads are, your beads are pre-strung. How awesome is that? But if you're having to fix mistakes, chances are those beads are pre-strung in the wrong stitches. So, and if you have trouble getting to a stitch, I like to have a yarn needle on hand. Let me see if I can find one real quick. What are the chances of having what you want when you want it, right? Let's see. How am I feeling lucky, baby Bjorn? I am feeling lucky. Okay, see how that loop, and it might be too dark for you to see, but the loop was going down inside the bead, so I moved it to my yarn needle to then move it back to the stitch. This is also a great tip if you're having trouble unraveling work in any type of knitting, or picking up stitches or whatever you're trying to do in knitting. If your stitches are too tight, what you can do is use a smaller needle and or a yarn needle. Go like that, and you could pick it right back up. Okay, I'm going to unravel all 5 of these stitches though, because I want to get back to another bead stitch so I can show you. Oh no, we can do it still. I'll show you how we take those beads out if we need to replace them, put them in a different spot. Okay, so we unraveled back our work, and we're going to knit the stitches. Now, if this stitch didn't need a bead on it anymore, okay, what you would want to do is, you could do this with the crochet hook, you can do this with the yarn needle, whichever. What you want to do is slide that stitch off the needle, secure it from unraveling with your left hand, and then pop the bead off, and now you have a stitch ready to knit without a bead on it. Does that make sense? Do you want me to do that again, or is that fine? Because if it's fine, I'm going to put it back on, because let's do it one more time. Let's say you needed to remove this stitch, remove this bead from this stitch in order to reknit it. So I'm going to pinch that stitch with my thumb and index finger so that it won't unravel. Take that bead off and then slide it back on my needles. Okay? But we do want to bead them. So now that I've shown you how to unravel the mistake, let's fix the mistake now, even though it's a fake mistake. We didn't actually have one, but we very easily could have had a mistake. In fact, we had a fake mistake because I thought I made a mistake and hadn't. How many of you have done that before? Convinced you made a mistake and you really didn't. It's a nice surprise once in a while, isn't it? Okay, we'll get that one back on. And then the ones where the bead's already in position, how fun is this? It's already pre-strung, so we'll do those 4 stitches that needed to be bead knit without having to add the beads to it. How fun is that? Okay, and the end of the row is knit 2, and then we have our selvage stitch. Okay, now I'm going to, and there we go. We've got the beginning of our X up here over the O, and we have the beginning of our O over here on top of the X. How awesome is that? Okay, so now let's turn the camera around and we'll get it back in this tripod here and see if I can answer any more questions. So, isn't that gorgeous? And you could do more repeats of this. Like I said, it's a 16 stitch repeat. So as long as you cast on in multiples of 16, you could have X's and O's across your whole fabric. Isn't that gorgeous? I think you can really see it really graphically when I lift it up like this. It really did work. All right, is anybody excited? Is anybody ready to try some beading now? Does that make beading more exciting, more intimidating? Does it sound easier than you may have thought? Like, tell me what you think about beads now. Would you like to explore more beading techniques in knitting or crochet? Does it appeal to you? I know sometimes I don't like beading because I don't like the stringing of the beads. There's really something about finding beads that you can add on with a crochet hook that I like better. And that's partly because I really like beads to show on both sides of the fabric, although I realize it's not always necessary. Like if you were going to bead a hat or a cowl, it is absolutely not necessary. If you would like a pattern to work on right now that actually follows this technique, I have a knit cowl pattern. Let's see if I can find it. It's called the Maisie. Let's see if I can find it. And it's a really simple cowl knit in the round with this technique. It's from my book Layers Knit, where if you already have that book, you already have the pattern. But I just thought if somebody would like to explore this technique a little further today, there's a pattern that actually uses this specific technique that we're talking about. Well, thank you, Janice. I appreciate it. You know, I've got lots of experience in knitting and crochet. I've been doing this for many, many years, 20 years to be exact, professionally 18 years. And I have so much information in my head that I don't always share because it doesn't fit to whatever I'm working on or what I'm teaching. But, you know, it's really important to me to share as much of my knowledge with you as I possibly can. So anytime you have questions, please always feel welcome to ask me. It's possible I have an answer for your question. It's possible we can look it up. It's possible I've already done it and have a great article about it on my website. If you're not already reading my blog, I have so many educational blog posts on there about so many different types of subjects within knitting and crochet. I do share my free patterns on my blog as well, but it's so much more than that. There are so many great articles that very educational and interesting. So I highly recommend checking that out. All right, well, I don't see any other questions from today. So thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes with me and with Bjorn for that matter. If you like my channel, please consider subscribing and clicking that bell notification button next to it so you'll always know when I release new videos or every time I go live. If you like today's content, please consider sharing it with your friends or on social media and click the like button if you decide you have questions later, or if you end up not watching this live and you end up watching it recorded. Always feel welcome to ask your questions in the comments. I get notified from those comments throughout the day and I reply to everybody. Thank you so much. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.